Now, we're talking about Bo Jackson here. If I could take the Bo from the late 80s into today's games, and he were 100% healthy, which in the end he obviously was not, Bo would dominate in football and baseball just the way he dominated in the late 80s. And I'll tell you why. 1990, when Bo did make a Pro Bowl in the National Football League, there were 28 teams. Now there are 32 teams. So the talent is also watered down, even though everybody's a little healthier, a little fitter, better diet, better workout regimens. No, it's watered down because you have effectively too many teams. When Bo made the All-Star team in 1989, there were 26 baseball teams. Now there are 30. So especially the pitching is diluted. It is watered down. It would be easier for Bo to dominate in baseball today or as easy as it was back in the late 80s. Deion Sanders. Again, I think he was the greatest all-around athlete ever. Today, if I took the Deion I knew in the early 90s, he'd be just as good in football and just as good in baseball. But my point is, he's talking about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson wasn't a very good minor league baseball player. So, no, Russell Wilson shouldn't pursue baseball because he already did pursue it on a professional level, and he wasn't very good. So I get what he's talking about Russell Wilson, but not when it comes to Bo Jackson.
Skip Bayless, I tend to agree with you on this, but what I would say is that doesn't mean you can't take his words very, very seriously. I think you got to go. I know what you're saying on a case-by-case basis. I think it's more profound or more pronounced than that. I think there are exceptions that could pull it off. But I think for the most part, he's right, particularly if you take into account someone trying to play football and something else. Now, if you're trying to play basketball, you're trying to play baseball. If you're trying to play baseball and tennis. If you're trying to play baseball and, something, that would be different, okay? But I think that when you talk about Bo Jackson, I think the thing that's entering his mind is football. And the game is so violent. And the guys are so humongous and athletic. The combination of speed and power and mass and girth. I think when you're having to deal with that, what he's saying is you're not going to be successful at something else. And that's what he's talking about. He's saying, look, the competition today, while you point out it's diluted because it's been spread out and what have you, the bottom line is the skill is diluted. But not the athleticism, not the strength, not the brute violence that it really puts on your body.
Sure.
And that's what I think he's alluding to. Because if you look at today's game, no matter what sport it is, you watch the NBA, have you ever seen guys this big, this fast? I mean, we've seen some guys who could play. We've seen some athletes and what have you, no doubt about it. And we could debate how gifted they were skill-wise. But in terms of their size, look at them.
Okay.
I mean, look at these guys walking around.
We go back and forth about this all the time, and I think you're more in my camp. Do you think I could take Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and project them in today's NBA, and they would still dominate?
But wait a minute. It's because of their skill.
Okay.
I'm saying to you, however, he's talking about two sports. He's talking about doing that and then doing something else. I'm saying what it would take for them to succeed on an elite level. It would preoccupy all of their will, their strength, and everything else, where you'd barely have anything to give to another sport. That's the issue here. When you're talking about a Michael Jordan, yes, as great as you would be, the assassin that you are, you would still be along the lines of a Kobe and LeBron. You see what I'm saying? Those guys like that. If you look at some of these other guys, Larry Bird, he could really shoot. So he's going to. Magic Johnson, well, as great as you were as a passer, do you see some of the guys that you would have to go against in terms of them defending you? Remember, Magic Johnson was neutralized in Chicago's first NBA championship because Phil Jackson put Scottie Pippen on them 94 feet, and you couldn't look over dudes any longer. You see? So I'm looking at it from that standpoint. And Allen Iverson, just a machine, a scoring machine. He wasn't better than Isaiah Thomas because Isaiah Thomas was a true point guard and a champion. But as a scorer, he was. But what happened to his body? Now, he could have done a better job of taking care of it, even though he's the greatest little warrior we've ever seen. But at the same time, it still took a toll. What else do you have to give?
And to your point, Bo took a shot in the hip, running the football, and
that's all I'm saying.
prematurely ended his career.
So he's not saying that you can't be successful if you were from that day. He's saying it takes so much to achieve that level of greatness and sustain it in one sport. How you going to have it to give to another? That's the argument that he's making. There's only one person that I believe could pull it off, and that's prime time, Deion Sanders.
Yep.
It's the only guy that I look at from the days and would say right now, if he were that kind of dude, if he were young enough, Deion Sanders could pull it off in two sports. But that's because he was a corner. Had he been been safety, had he been a linebacker and still trying to play baseball, no, he couldn't do it.